You make the great point that politicians historically love to spend money going into the final weeks and months of an election. I wonder, we've been asking everybody this, but what do you think the calculus is from the White House going into November 3rd?
It's weird, isn't it, right? Because we knew in April, you and I were talking on the show about how the bridge that we built wasn't going to get us to the other side. So we knew we were going to have to spend more money, and yet we've squandered 5 months during an election process. And it's very hard to understand why the politicians would be doing this, who's getting the angle here. But meanwhile, we've got an emergency on our hands because there is a huge sector of the economy that is going into Q4, the retail sector, and this is make or break for them. And if they don't get through the Q4, the 850,000 COVID-related bankruptcies that we saw in the summer are going to look like nothing. And the issue is that these retailers cannot wait until November to decide how much inventory to order. They need to be doing this right now. While the politicians are posturing, we wake up in the morning and at breakfast, Powell tells us we have an emergency on our hands. At lunch, Trump says, oh, well, let's just wait till after the election. And at dinner time, we've got a new bill on the table. We cannot be doing this anymore because once the retail sector goes down, the suppliers to retailers are going to get hit. Then the real estate industry gets hit, and then it hits the banking industry. And then you've got a systemic failure in the economy.
Right. That's what Powell obviously has been saying he's been trying to avoid. How do you separate, though, especially when it comes to state and local aid, legitimate rescue packages for small and medium-sized businesses from, in the president's words, money that would go to management in his words again, Democrat-run cities and states where there has been mismanagement? And why would you want to reward that kind of negative behavior?
Sure, let's talk about that, okay? So 17% of the economy are these municipalities. But guess what? They buy football uniforms from small businesses. So what's going to happen is they're going to let last year's football uniforms work for this year. They buy fire trucks. They have sewer projects that employ 35 people and a half a dozen small businesses. This is not about punishing red or blue states. I mean, after all, the federal government can print money their way out of their problem. This is about a huge sector of the economy. Now, for the last 10 years, that sector has grown at about 5% a year. You can say whether that's a good thing or not, all the public spending, but it has been a huge part of the fueling of our economy right now. And we're talking about bankrupting municipalities. And who's that going to hit? It's going to hit the guy who was going to sell football uniforms to the high school next year, small business person.
Hey, David, we always describe you as an advisor to over 30 small and medium-sized businesses. I hear what you're saying here, but just give me very briefly what business is like for those 30-plus businesses you advise. How bad is it?
Well, back in April, they were relieved to get the PPP loan, and as rushed as that was, it worked. But they had been wanting visibility. So what's happening right now is those employers are on hold. Those companies are on hold. They're not hiring people. They're not expanding. They're not buying inventory. They're waiting. And that's the problem. It's exactly when we need people, we need the economy to be active. The economy is on hold, waiting for Washington, D.C. to stop fiddling while Main Street is burning.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.